Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Caroline Chapin, Channel Marketing Manager at Autotask. I'll be your host for today's webinar. I'm very excited about our two presenters today. First, we will hear from Carrie Simpson, founder and CEO of Managed Sales Pros, Inc. She's a top 50 channel influencer, and I'm really looking forward to hearing her share some of her best practices on how to execute successful lead generation campaigns for your managed services business. Then we will hear from our very own Len DiCostanzo, our SVP of Channel Development. Len is one of the most widely recognized figures in the IT industry with more than 25 years experience in the channel. And today he'll be presenting to you how Autotask's unified platform helps you execute successful lead generation campaigns and deliver world-class service to your clients. Before we get started, I have just a couple of quick housekeeping items. First, we are hosting in Cisco WebEx. If you're having any technical issues, please notify me, the marketing host, via the chat function in WebEx to the right of your screen. Also, just a reminder that all lines will be muted just to prevent any background noise. That doesn't mean we don't want questions, though. So if you have any questions, I'll just ask that you submit them through the Q&A function in WebEx, and we'll save a few minutes at the end to cover off on those questions. Next, we'll have a post-webinar survey that will pop up in a separate window. We just ask that you take a few moments to fill out this survey. It's literally like 5 short questions, and this will help us develop content for future webinars like this one. I'd also like to remind everyone that this session is being recorded and will be made available to you, all of our attendees, via an email. I'll send you a link to the recording within about 3 business days, and it will also be available on our website via our resources section. I encourage you to go there and not only look for that on-demand webinar, but we have a lot of other great content that is certainly that could extend some great value to you and your business. Now I'd like to just give out a quick reminder. We are just about a little less than a week here from our annual Community Live event. I'm really, really excited about this event. It's certainly near and dear to my heart, being a part of the marketing team. Our team's been working very hard to pull together a really great event. We're expecting 1,000+ partners, industry leaders, customers, and prospects, where we expect everyone will come together to network. We've got some great business building, educational sessions, technical training, and of course there's always time for some good food and drinks too. But the clock is ticking, so if you're interested in registering, please, I encourage you to go to our website, www.autotask.com/ACL. For those of you that are already registered, we really look forward to seeing you there, and it's going to be a great event. So now let's get started. The reason why we are all here, really pleased to introduce Carrie Simpson, founder and CEO at Managed Sales Pros, Inc., who will help kick things off today.
Thanks so much, Caroline.
Carrie?
Can you hear me okay?
Sure can.
Fantastic. And can you see my screen now?
It's coming through. Just one moment. You try and share one more time.
Yes, I can. Oops. Are you able to see my screen?
Not yet.
All right.
Why don't we try this, Caroline? I see
Hold on.
Carol.
How are we doing?
Here it comes. Here it comes.
Got it? All right.
Coming. There we go. Just a little bit of a delay. Sorry, everyone.
All right. Let me just make sure I've got the right version up here.
There we go. Perfect.
I think we're caught up.
Excellent.
Sorry about the delay, everybody. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for having me on today, Len, Caroline. I really appreciate it. So our agenda for today, or my part of the agenda, is explaining to you a little bit about who Managed Sales Pros is, what the major prospecting pain points are for managed services, how to develop prospecting campaigns, and how you can get started creating your own prospecting campaigns. Like Caroline mentioned, my name is Carrie Simpson, and I am the founder and CEO of Managed Sales Pros. I've got a little bit of information on my bio up here, but I think the most relevant information about my background is that I have been able to start, manage, and grow a services-based company that relies heavily on monthly recurring revenue, from $0 in monthly recurring revenue to over $250,000 in monthly recurring revenue in about 2 years' time. So we have some of the same exact challenges that managed service providers have, and as a matter of fact, we built our model to very closely reflect managed service providers. So not only have we been able to build a successful business using cold calling in the last couple of years, we've also supported over 50 MSPs to do the same thing. We currently work with over 30 of those MSPs, and we're scheduling on average about 300 appointments every month. So without further ado, I'd like to get into the content today. So what is sales prospecting? And in a nutshell, sales prospecting is consistently delivering a targeted message to a targeted group, expecting a specific outcome from that process. So the outcome that we're looking for, obviously, is a closed sale. So one of the things that I like to think about here is the definition of insanity. And that's technically defined as doing the same thing over and over again, expecting there to be different results at the end. So what are you doing right now that is really quite insane? What are you doing over and over again that isn't working for you? And why isn't it working? And how can we fix it? So one of the things that we've seen while we've onboarded and discussed with 100 MSPs over the course of the last couple of years, we've identified a couple of things that everyone seems to have in common. And the first thing is an inconsistent commitment to outbound prospecting. So what does that mean? It really means that you think that you're doing some work that you're not really doing. So you make a commitment to do a certain thing, but then a client fire comes up or something else happens, and the time that you thought you were dedicating to your outbound prospecting really is no longer earmarked for that prospecting. So it becomes the lowest thing on the totem pole, the thing that you pay attention to if and when you get around to it, versus it being something that you're paying the same amount of attention to every day or every week. The second problem that we're noticing is that you're making investments in your sales and marketing programs with no real defined plan or process in place to support them. So you watch a webinar like this, you say, great, I'm going to hire Carrie from Managed Sales Pros to do all of our prospecting for us. And you work with us for a year, and we hand you back a document outlining what your sales pipeline should look for the next year. And that pipeline gets tucked in a drawer and never looked at again. So people are making some major investments in sales and marketing with third-party companies, and they're not supporting those plans. They're looking for set it and forget it. And there's really no magic bullet. There really is no way to set it and forget it, whether you're working with a third-party marketing agency or a third-party sales agency like myself. So what is your plan going into this? How do you plan to support your business development initiatives? And what are you going to do at the end of it to make sure that all the money that you just spent doesn't get wasted? Third thing I'm seeing a lot is very reactive sales activities versus proactive. So reactive, waiting for stuff to come to you, proactive, going out and making things happen. So when people get invested heavily in word of mouth and referral-based sales activities, they really spend a lot of time waiting for stuff to come to them. Like they're not going out and actively working their network. They're not actively calling out to the market and offering business development. They're not driving to the nearest business park and passing out flyers and talking to people. They're just kind of sitting in their office hoping that business is going to come to them. And I think that anybody that's sitting on this webinar today wondering about how they are going to build their outbound sales process for the next year is probably doing a little bit of that, a little bit of that currently, relying on people who used to bring referrals to you that aren't doing it any longer, for example. So when you get into relying too heavily on word of mouth and passive referrals to grow your business, you end up in a major feast-famine cycle where maybe one of your best clients brings a couple of people your way one quarter, and then nothing happens for a few more quarters. So if you're at the point now where you've had a dry pipeline for 2 or 3 quarters, you're going to be able to anticipate a year of zero pipeline. So once you start relying too heavily on your referral network to bring business to you instead of going out and aggressively, actively looking for that new business, you're going to notice your pipeline begin to taper off. The thing that I notice the most is a short-sighted approach to sales prospecting. So for example, we offer 2 different types of programs to the market, and one of them is an all-you-can-eat package where we do all your prospecting for you, and we give you all of the information, we give you all the data, and you own all that data, and you can do whatever you want with it because it belongs to you. And the other approach is we just sell you sales appointments. So on the first approach, you're buying a pipeline, and on the second approach, you're buying a meeting, and I'm keeping the pipeline. So you really want to start thinking about what's the value of your sales pipeline. Like, what are you doing right now that's going to enable you to be successful, not just for a quarter and not just for a year, but 2 and 3 years out? Are you identifying when people's contracts are ending, or are you just having quick conversations with them where they say, I'm not interested, and hang up the phone? And the final bit that I'd like to talk about is most companies are unable to build and manage the 2 different types of prospecting campaigns that combined will make them very successful. One is a very long-term type of program, and the other is very short-term. And if you get a nice mix of both, you're going to create a really valuable, regular, predictable revenue cycle. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
perfectly.
Thank you very much. So there are 2 types of prospecting campaigns that I want to talk about today. The first one is called a displacement campaign, and the second one is called a disruption campaign. A displacement campaign is essentially a land grab, and a disruption campaign is what we call a knockout campaign. So one of them implies that you're already working with someone and we're going to have to wait you out. And the second one is you probably don't have a solution in place to solve that problem, and we're going to sell you that solution. And managed services is a complete displacement campaign, and then there are product-based sales that can be disruption campaigns. I'm going to try and further explain that to you a little bit now. So when you're trying to figure out what your sales cycle is going to look like, you need to figure out where you're going to be on what I like to call the displacement disruption continuum. And if you take a look at this diagram with the little circles on it, there used to actually be an arrow that pointed to the middle of that diagram where the displacement area is. So just imagine there's an arrow there. But there's 3 things that are going to affect your ability to sell into the market and how long it will take you to sell into the market. And those 3 things are market comprehension, offering maturity, and brand recognition. So completely outside of those circles, you have a 100% disruption campaign. And in the middle of those circles, you've got a 100% displacement campaign. And somewhere on that continuum between 100% disruption, which most things are not, and 100% displacement, which also most things are not, you're going to figure out where what you're offering sits, and that's going to help you figure out how to best sell that. So right in the middle of that circle, that is the perfect storm of displacement. And that's primarily all volume selling. You don't have to educate anyone about anything. So an example for that would be office equipment. Everybody understands what office equipment is. Everybody knows what a photocopier is. High brand recognition would be something like Xerox. Everybody knows who Xerox is. Everybody knows what a photocopier is. So that is 100% displacement. Odds are, unless you're a brand new business, you've already got a photocopier. If Xerox is calling you, you know what they do. So there's not going to be a whole lot of explaining who Xerox is or what a photocopier is. It's a very high volume, short education sales cycle. So if you take a look at this diagram, this kind of shows you the continuum for displacement or disruption, and I'll just review it a little bit with you. And again, I am not an analyst. This is just based on my own 20 years of selling experience only. But the first one, like we just discussed, that 100% displacement campaign, that would be market comprehension like office equipment, brand recognition like Xerox, and an offering maturity like photocopiers. So if I call you from Xerox to try and sell you a photocopier, I won't have to explain to you who I'm calling from or what I'm selling. You're going to understand completely. It's going to be a matter of yes, I want this, or no, I don't want this. So it becomes a high volume, no education sale. There's zero education required, and the sales cycle will be very fast if there's a need. If I call you and say, hey, it's Carrie calling from Xerox, do you need a new photocopier? You're going to say, yes, ours just broke, or no, we just bought one, and that's the whole sale. You're going to then log it into your process for a follow-up call, but there isn't going to be a lot of romancing involved there. The second example would be a company with zero brand recognition coming into the market. So I've decided to start my own photocopier company. So Carrie's Photocopiers has come into the market. So people still understand what a photocopier is. They still understand what office equipment is. They understand the market. What they don't know is who is Carrie's Photocopiers. So now I have zero brand recognition. So now my sales cycle gets a little bit longer because I'm going to have to earn the trust that a company like Xerox already has with their brand recognition. So it's going to start moving down the scale some. The education level is going to get a little bit higher there. Moving on to the third example. Think about when managed print first came onto the scene. Everybody still understood what office equipment was. Everybody knew who Xerox was, but they had a brand new concept to sell, an offering with a maturity level of 0. Now all of a sudden, the education component of that sale gets significantly longer. You're still going to take my call because I'm calling you from Xerox and I know who you are. But now I'm going to have to educate you on the value of doing something brand new. That's where things start to get a little more interesting. That's where your sales cycle starts to get a little bit longer and skill becomes more important than volume. Moving on to the next example, Carrie's Photocopier company has now decided to sell managed print. Now I'm lacking a couple of things. Nobody knows who I am, and nobody understands what I'm selling anymore. Move on to the next offering. Xerox is going to launch a brand new product in a brand new space, and I don't even have an example for that. But let's assume that 5 years from now, maybe 3D printing, I'm not sure, but something new and interesting comes to the market, and you really have to be able to explain that to the market. Now, again, you're going further up the disruption scale. I'm not trying to replace what you're currently doing. I'm not trying to replace the photocopier you bought 5 years ago with managed print. I want to do a whole new thing for you now. I'm going to completely change how you do business, and nobody else has tried to sell it to you before. That's where the disruption part of the scale starts to come in. And then move on to the last example. That would be a completely unknown company trying to sell a completely unknown thing in a completely unknown market. That is 100% disruption. It's pretty rare, and it's a lot of fun to sell. So if you somehow manage to luck into being the first person ever to sell the first thing ever, you're going to have a great time figuring that out. It's going to be challenging, but you're going to have a lot of options. So let's talk a little bit now about that land grab sale, that disruption sale. You really only have one chance to sell something first. Right, so if you think about, for example, since we're talking about Autotask Workplace here, you've only got one opportunity to go in and be the first person to sell them on the idea of using file sharing. If someone else has beat you to it, now you're playing a displacement game. So disruption is all about land grab. It's being first person there, the first person with the idea, the first person to present it to them, and the first person to sell them on it. The higher up on that disruption scale you go, the more education you're going to have to provide, and the longer the sales cycle is going to be. So again, if it's something that's completely out of left field, we've never heard of this before, it's going to take you a significant amount of time to educate your prospects in order to convince them of the value that you're going to bring to them. So what does this mean to you? It means that you need to plan your sales cycles realistically based on where you are on the disruption or displacement scale. So if you're going to have to do a lot of educating, this isn't going to be a one-call close. If they already understand what you're selling, so if you're somewhere in the middle of that disruption displacement continuum, you're going to have a whole lot easier time of this because people will know what you're selling to them. You'll have some brand recognition. You're going to require less educating. So what's fantastic about the disruption sale? Well, it can be a very fast sales cycle, and so that makes it a quick path to revenue. So for example, Autotask Workplace, if somebody has not already sold this organization a solution to that problem, now you've got the ability to go in there, identify the problem, provide a quick solution, and close that business. Fast, I wouldn't describe it as simple, but it's certainly something to sustain a revenue cycle. There's less actual and perceived competition for something that's high up on the disruption scale. So if you think about some of the objections that come along with selling anything, one of the first objections is we already have that. And if there is no way for them to say that, I mean, there can be perceived competition. I mean, technically, an Excel spreadsheet would be perceived competition for a file signature. Yeah, we all collaborate on Excel. It's no problem. Right? Sometimes you've got to sell against things that aren't actually competition, but there should be an easier close when it comes down to a disruption sale. Now, a displacement sale is all about playing the waiting game. Someone else has already won their business, and now you have to wait them out. So thinking about this in terms of your business, the odds are that at this point in time, anybody you really want to do business with is already having their IT needs met somewhere. They're working with a company that's doing it for them. They've got an in-house solution. They hired a guy that they know. They are having that need met in some way. So at this point, it becomes the waiting game. And the higher up on the displacement scale you go, the more reliant you're going to be on volume. So your success is going to be less about skill and more about how many leads can I put in the top of my funnel quickly so that more opportunity comes out the bottom. How much can I learn so that I know when this is going to be available for me to sell to? Your sales cycle is going to be dependent primarily on contract end date more than your ability to solve an immediate problem. So your process and timing at this point will be the thing that wins you business. So when you're selling a disruptive sale, so selling a product that's disruptive, you need skill. You need to hire better talent because you need to educate more thoroughly. When you're selling a displacement-based product or service, so something that is going to knock out a competitor, you're looking at a higher volume sale. Good news, you can hire someone that costs a little bit less. Bad news, it's a lot more work. So what's great about that displacement sale? Minimal education required. You really don't have to go too far into the value of working with an IT solution provider, for example. They've already seen the value. They've already hired one. They already understand that outsourcing makes sense to them. They've made the decision to do that already. That also makes them a perfect lead for you. We just discussed this, but you can use a less qualified or lower cost sales talent to focus on displacement sales. It's primarily timing based, and here's where having a phenomenal commitment to process will help you win the day. You want to be able to track everything you do aggressively and thoroughly. That's going to be what wins you business. Understanding when people are ready to buy again becomes the key factor in winning displacement sales. So here's where you need to start understanding that displace, disrupt continuum. Knowing where you are on that continuum will help you set realistic sales expectations. So nothing is worse than hiring a brand new sales rep and giving them an unrealistic worldview on what the next year of their life is going to look like. And after prospecting for managed services firms for the last 3 years, we understand what the sales cycle looks like. And it's very rare that perfect sweet spot managed services opportunities drop out of the sky. It just doesn't happen that often. Like the odds on us calling somebody and saying, hey, are you looking for this? And them saying, you know what? I am looking for that. And my contract expires in 30 days. Please come in, bring a contract, sell this to me. Those opportunities aren't just sitting around there waiting for you. You have to create those opportunities. And you create those opportunities by identifying where they are in their buying cycle. You do that by identifying contract end date. So when you're looking at aggressive displacement sales, meaning you want to identify what they're currently doing to solve the problem and then convince them to change service providers, you need to create an ironclad process that's going to help you create that predictable revenue that you're looking for. So as opposed to trying to win business on one call, coming in and say, looking for that low-hanging fruit, those not so readily available appointments, you can create a predictable sales pipeline through identification of contract end dates and then creating a marketing cadence that approaches them based on where they are in that buying cycle. So if you think about how reasonable people make purchase decisions, you can start working backwards from when do you really need to start aggressively marketing to this person versus when do you just need to stay top of mind with them. On a displacement sales cycle, you normally have a higher value ticket item and a longer sales cycle. So do you want to sell the product or do you want to sell the managed services agreement? Technically, the managed service agreement is going to be long-term far more valuable to your company. It's going to take you a lot longer to get there, though. So to keep from living that feast-famine lifestyle, we want to look at these smaller disruption sales, these lower ticket items that are sold to our client base and to our prospect base more frequently. If you can learn how to plan, predict, and balance it, you'll stop experiencing feast and famine reactive selling cycles, which means going for quarters without signing a new piece of business. If you can continually sign small pieces of business every week throughout the year, in addition to winning those managed contracts when they come up for renewal, you're going to create a really aggressive, really attractive, predictable sales pipeline. So why is it a great time to be selling Autotask Workplace? Well, based on what we've just learned about the displacement disruption continuum, the sweet spot for file sync and share services is right now. So market comprehension is high. Everybody understands what file sync and share is at this point. They've tried consumer grade products. It's not a brand new concept. A great product hasn't been available. So you're looking at a much shorter sales cycle. So again, if you take a look at that circle, market comprehension is high. Brand recognition, depending on what your company brand recognition is, you may have to work a little harder there. And offering maturity is finally at a place where you can sell a good business-grade file sync and share solution. So managed services is that displacement sale, dependent on process and timing. There's no land grab left. Everybody's solving the problem. And your real or perceived competitors have the business you want. So what do you do now? You start working on disruption sales. And Autotask Workplace is that disruption sale. So there's still plenty of chances to be first. I guarantee you there are plenty of companies who haven't solved this problem. Bringing in a product sale as a thin wedge is going to help you balance disruption sales with your displacement sales leads and create that predictable sales cycle. So I want to talk a little bit today about thin wedging, what it is, and how we do it. So when you begin creating a sales campaign, you want to focus on selling an idea instead of a product. So you're not going to go into them suggesting that they need something in particular. What you want to do is organically allow a prospect to identify what their technology challenges are. So if you go in, for example, suggesting that all law firms are experiencing pain that looks like this, are you experiencing pain that looks like this? I mean, potentially, yes, they are experiencing that pain, but what if their big issue that quarter doesn't come into play there. What if they've been sitting in meetings trying to solve problem X, and you come in and try and sell them a solution to problem Y? They're probably still having both of those problems, but I guarantee you that problem Y is getting shelved if problem X is what's on the table right now. So if you can have a conversation with them that allows them to tell you what business problems they're trying to solve that quarter, I guarantee you that you can present managed services as the solution to that problem. Go in with the idea first and the product or the solution second. So the idea is technology that always works. And the product is the thin wedge that you use when you can't win that managed services deal. So they're too far on the displacement side of the spectrum, meaning, you know what, I still got 2 years remaining on the contract with the guys that I'm with. I like them okay. I can't see leaving them right now. Right? You don't want to walk away empty-handed, and that's when you start using a thin wedge sell. Ideas keep doors open. So going in to sell one product, if they say no to that product, it's really hard for you to backpedal at that time and say, but wait, we do this too. You don't want to appear in a phone call like somebody who's just going to do anything for a buck, right? We sell this. Do you need this? No, we don't need that. Oh, well, wait, we sell this too. Whereas if you go in talking about an idea, that opens the door for you to go back in again and again with some different ideas on how you might solve a problem, different products, different solutions. It allows you to approach that lead multiple times in different ways. So if you think about running an organized multi-touch campaign where maybe you're using telemarketing and email marketing and some other approaches, if you're talking about ideas instead of specific products, you're always going to be able to approach a prospect multiple times. You can revisit that idea again and again with a little bit of a different spin on it. And the idea is always planning to lead that prospect back to a managed services agreement. It's your highest ticket sell. That's what you want. Everything else is kind of, okay, we'll take that as a contingency, but we really want this big managed services contract. So how can you always bring the conversation back to that idea? I've got some basic script building points to review with you here. I'm not going to go into this too aggressively today. There's a lot of content to get through, and there's a lot of content available on our website. We've done programs with Autotask in the past that explains how to build your outbound managed services sales prospecting script. So I'm just going to go through them point by point. Here's what you want to do when you're building a script. You're going to identify who you are, where you're calling from, and what you want. So my name's Carrie Simpson. I'm calling from ABCIT, and I'd like to provide you with a quote for IT support. Then you're going to go into the next stage of the script, which is either assume that you've got permission to talk to them and barrel right through the conversation, or request permission to continue. Personally, I like to request permission to continue. I understand that people are busy and that you may have caught them off guard, and you can do that in a way that doesn't allow them to shut down the conversation simply by saying, hey, how many minutes have you got to spend with me today? Instead of saying, do you have time to speak with me today? You want to qualify first and pitch second. So I do not want to spend 17 calls or 17 minutes selling somebody that has no authority to buy or who might not even be a good fit for my services to begin with. So there's nothing saying that you can't quickly go right out there and say, hey, our services work best for companies that have a minimum of 20 computers there. Does it make sense for us to keep talking? Yes, it does. Great. Simplify your pitch. Get it down to its most basic. What are you calling for? We'd like to provide a quote for IT support. We'd like to find out if our services are a fit for you. If people are asking you, what do you mean? You're not explaining it properly. Dumb it down even further. Remember, if you are very technical and the person you are speaking to does not understand technology, you are going to struggle to communicate with that person. You want to strip out all the tech speak. Anything that you would say at a trade show, you should not be saying on a sales prospecting call. Assume I know nothing about technology when you're trying to sell it to me. Use quantifiable statements and not fluff. So what does that mean? What we do here when we're going to create a sales script for a client is print off every page of their website, and then I take a big black Sharpie marker and I cross off anything that can't be quantified. So a quantifiable statement is something like, we have been in business for 13 years. A fluffy statement is, we provide the best IT support in Milwaukee. How do you know that? Did you win a prize? Was there an award? That is a fluffy statement. It can't be quantified. Talk to people using facts. And here's the most important one of all. You want to use open-ended questions for discovery. So an open-ended question is a question that can't be answered with a yes or no. So would you like to meet with me next week? No. That is a closed-ended question. I have time on Thursday next week at 2 and Friday next week at 4. Which of those times works best for you? That is an open-ended question, and it's much less likely to have the conversation shut down. So the goal when you're building a script is to ask as many questions as possible, open-ended questions that encourage discussion, while guiding the prospect to the result that you want, which is a sales appointment. If anybody would like advice or help on building a script, we offer plenty of free handouts. Just send me a note after the call today, and I am more than happy to share what we use internally here. I don't think there's anything magical or proprietary that we do here. I think that the difference between a company like ours and somebody prospecting in-house is that this is just all we do every day. We never have a client fire to put out. All we do is call all day, every day. So coming back around to displacement programs and managed services, some of the challenges that you'll have around it is that reasonable people just don't break their agreements, and that's a good thing, right? Anytime somebody says to me, yeah, we'll meet with you right away, I have to think, what's going on there? You know, what is it that they can't resolve with their current provider? Is this the 4th or 5th provider that they've had in the last 2 years? Are they the type of company that's that aggressively reactive? Do I really want this business? So sometimes that low-hanging fruit, those one-call closes, that's business that you don't want on your client roster. You want the clients that are thinking about whether or not this makes sense for their business. You want the clients that are loyal to the people that they've signed agreements with. The type of business you want is the type of business you have to work for, not the stuff that just falls into your lap. I'm always grateful for the meetings that just pop down out of the sky. They make us look like superstars, but they really aren't the types of prospects that you want to do business with. So think very carefully when someone says, yeah, come on in tomorrow, I hate the guys we're working with. Because odds are in 90 days, you'll be the guys that they hate working with. Your marketing cadence, which is the frequency with which you contact a new prospect, is going to be determined by identified contract end dates. So one of the questions you're going to ask at the beginning of the sales cycle is, when does your contract renew? When would be a good time to call you back to discuss that? So once you've got that magic number, that magic date, everything in your sales and marketing pipeline works towards that date. So if they're 3 years out from a renewal, obviously you are not going to call that guy every week. And if they're a year out from a renewal, you're probably going to call them once a month. Maybe you've taken him out to play golf or invited him to dinner or done something to more solidify that relationship. And as they get to about that 6-month mark, that's when you're reaching out to them with email marketing on a weekly or semi-monthly basis and trying to get in there before they sign that contract renewal with their current provider. Ideally, you've built enough of a business relationship with them that it makes sense for you to ask for the business at that time. You're building a long-term relationship with clients. Managed services sales, when it was disruptive. So think back to when managed services first started becoming a thing and nobody had ever heard of it before and the only option you had was break fix. At that time, that market was really disruptive. People were prepared to come and try this new form of IT support. Now everybody knows what it is and most people have it, so it's now a displacement and waited out sale. So you're building trust and rapport so that when it is time and not before, you are going to win that business. But you don't want to walk away empty-handed from the sales process, and that's where you introduce thin wedge selling. So what have you got in your toolbox that can disrupt instead of displace? What have you got that you can sell to them right now that will be of interest to them right now, will be valuable to them right now? And most importantly, what have you got that their current provider hasn't sold to them yet? How do you engage them with that thin wedge? So one of the things I like most about thin wedge selling is when I can present a solution that their current provider hasn't put in front of them yet or hasn't sold to them yet, it opens the door for them to start thinking, what else don't I know about? What else haven't they presented to me? How come I didn't know that this was even possible before? So we're going to talk a little bit now about how Autotask Workplace can keep that door open for you, and how do you introduce that product sale before the door closes. So thin wedging requires you to just ask one more question. So assume that you've gone into the conversation and they've identified that they're already happy with a provider that they're already working with. They've got a couple years left on their agreement. They're not going to make any changes right now. That's great. You want to acknowledge that, but keep the conversation going. Remember, they're about to boot you off the phone, so why not just ask them one more thing? Don't get overly anxious about the idea that somebody's just said no to you. How do you keep the door open? What problem can you solve for them immediately? So think about a list of questions that you can create that's going to offer the opportunity for you to begin talking about a thin wedge solution. And in this place, we're going to talk about Autotask Workplace. So I've got a couple of examples here for you. So assuming that somebody's just said, you know what, we're not interested, we're not going to be interested for the next couple of years. Great. I understand you're not currently looking for a new solution provider. You know, I hope when it's time to evaluate new providers, we'll be able to throw our hat in the ring. What do you currently use to share and edit documents securely? Again, that's an open-ended question. You've already built some rapport with them. Hopefully they'll answer that question, and now you're going to start the whole sales process over again, selling a product instead of an idea. So again, try to sell the idea first, and if you can't win that managed services agreement right now, now we're going to try and sell a product. I totally understand that you're in an agreement for the next year. You know, you mentioned that you have several offices. How are those offices sharing information and collaborating currently? Again, that open-ended question, start the sales process over again. Or, you know what, I understand. I hope we can keep talking for the next year. We've just started offering clients a great solution for collaborating. What does your team use for file sharing? So those open-ended discovery questions just tacked right on there at the natural end of the conversation. You're going to start your sales process right over again from the beginning. So what you want to do when you're thin wedging is guide your prospect to the problem that you want to help them solve. So it's completely different from your first conversation. Your first conversation your first conversation is encouraging them to tell you what the problem is. The second conversation is you telling them what the problem is. So when it comes to Autotask Workplace, File Sync and Share, for example, what you want to do is lead them through the problem. And to help somebody identify a problem, start by looking for the good intention. What's causing the problem is usually good intention. So for example, for an issue that you might be able to identify when you're trying to sell Autotask Workplace is, look, is your entire book of business living on someone else's laptop backed up to their personal OneDrive account? You know, like the good intention here is your sales reps are working hard from home. So you want to help them identify something positive. People that are living in a positive mindset, who are having a positive conversation with you about the great things that their team is trying to achieve, that leads to a better sales conversation. If what you do first is highlight bad decisions, wow, how come you let your sales reps do that? You shouldn't be doing that. Do you understand what that's going to do to your book of business in 5 years? Don't you have any succession planning? If you lead with the negatives, the conversation turns negative and people start questioning decisions that they've made. People who are doubting themselves don't make buying decisions. People who feel smart and confident make buying decisions. So once they've agreed that there's a problem, like, oh, you're right. You know what? Our sales reps do create all of their proposals and save them to their own personal OneDrive accounts. Then you start throwing in the big scary what ifs, right? You've identified what the problem is. And the problem is, gosh darn it, their sales reps just work too hard from home. That's fantastic. How can you give them the tools that they need to keep working hard for you, keep working well for you, without causing all the nightmare problems that come along with it? So there's lots of ways that you can identify that for file sync and share, right? Is your accountant backing up files to their own personal laptops? You know, the more secure the files need to be, the worse this problem becomes. How about the HR department? What's happening there? So if you can start painting the big scary what if pictures after you've identified something fantastic that their employees are trying to do for them, now you can get in and thin wedge with that product sale, with that fear factor. Use stories that are relatable. So you've probably got a couple of them right in your roster right now, right? Like who left their laptop at the airport, who dropped their tablet in the bathtub. It happens all the time. Then you'll go into objection handling, and you know that's probably a whole other webinar, but the biggest objections that you're going to encounter when selling Autotask Workplace are going to be, we don't need that, we're not interested, not right now, we're too big for that, we're too small for that, or we use a free product. And again, it really doesn't matter what the objection is. If they are having a conversation with you, they are interested enough for you to meet with them to sell them something. If they haven't immediately shut you down with a no thank you, they're ready to have this conversation. So your goal is to start asking vaguer questions at this point that just keep the conversation going. Tell me more about that. Why do you think that? Why do you think that's happening? What have you already tried to solve that? Vague questions that aren't very specific to a product or a service, something that's just going to allow them to talk and talk and talk until you can bring them back to the place that you want them to be, which is, why don't we sit down and talk about this? I have time Tuesday at 4 or Wednesday at 5. Which of those times work better for you? And most importantly, ask for the sale. People don't sell more because they don't go right in there and ask for it. You can't leave your conversations in limbo. If they say they're not ready, ask them why they aren't ready. What do they need to become ready? When will they be ready? Every conversation you have should end with an ask. You should be asking for a sale or asking for something that's going to happen next. The best thing about Autotask Workplace is you could sell it in 1 or 2 shots. It's not a cost-prohibitive offering. It's not so technical you need to go on site to demonstrate it. It's one call to get the demo and a call to close the sale. If you're trying to win a managed opportunity, you want to go on site, period. You want to get in there, start getting to know people. They want to trust you. They want to get to know you. So you have to sell this quickly, or they're going to go to their current provider and ask them for it. So make sure at the time, if you have them interested, you are asking them to buy from you. We're running a little bit short on time today. So I'm going to run quickly through setting up campaigns. You want to identify your targets. Who do you want to sell this to? Plan your workflow and automate your follow-ups. All of your follow-ups should be contingent on contract end date. Your cadence should get more aggressive the closer you get to that contract end date. You want to create a script that's going to help you guide the conversation. You're going to put together 2 of them. One's going to be your displacement script, looking for that idea, trying to win that managed services business. And the second one is going to be a disruption script. What do I do after they say no to the managed services contract? I'm going to sell them something else. And then you're going to become absolutely fanatical about following your process. So what do you do next? You get started. You've probably got everything you need to be successful right now. If you're using Autotask, you can set up your sales prospecting campaign in Autotask. If you don't feel like figuring it out yourself, I am more than happy to help you do that. And of course, we have a special offer. If you sign up for the Managed Sales Pros Autotask Workplace campaign before the end of October, Autotask is going to give you some money to do it. So I'm going to let Autotask take it from here.
Carrie, thank you so much for your presentation. Great content, and certainly I know that everyone in the audience can relate to this topic. It's one that's probably near and dear to all of your hearts. the idea of a displacement campaign versus disruption is one that we can relate to, and certainly thin wedge selling with a solution like Autotask Workplace that is a pretty easy sell. Like Carrie said, it's a short sales cycle, and one, if you're not already using Autotask Workplace, I encourage you to take a look and certainly let us know if you're interested in learning more. So next, without further ado, I will hand this off to Len DiCostanzo, our Senior Vice President of Channel Development, to take it from here. Len?
Sure. Hey, thanks, Caroline, for getting to this spot in the webinar. We've had a wonderful time getting here, and Carrie, thanks for that really insightful webinar. It certainly, is an issue out there. A lot of MSPs, service providers, as they grow, tend to struggle generating leads for new business and tend to wait for that next sale. So certainly I think that session will help a great deal, and certainly I think our joint program to help the webinar attendees drive more leads is going to be good for them as well. So definitely try to take advantage of Carrie's program. So what I wanted to do is share how the Autotask Unified Platform helps you execute those successful lead gen campaigns, but more importantly, once you generate those leads, close new business, and deliver world-class service. And it really starts with the Autotask Unified Platform, the only unified PSA and RMM that helps you close more business and deliver that world-class service. And the Unified Platform really begins with Autotask Professional Service Automation and Autotask Endpoint Management. Both of these products will help you to build your campaign, drive those leads, and actually build your opportunity pipeline. Because as you start with Autotask PSA, it's all about that CRM built into the product that gives you the opportunity to track your accounts and contacts, create quotes, and track your opportunities so that you can win new business. Typically a project, as Carrie mentioned, if you go to win that new managed service contract and you're actually successful displacing the incumbent, you're going to execute a project typically to remediate that environment, and you can use the Autotask Project Management offering to help manage that project start to finish, track your time and expense, and get the invoice out on the street. And once you have that successful project executed and managed through Autotask PSA, you move into delivering your managed services, your cloud services, providing that support for your client, all kind of delivered through the Autotask Service Desk solution. Again, collecting time and expense, even if you're on a flat fee contract, always tracking time and expense, checking out your profitability on the contract, and getting that monthly recurrent invoice out on time, and then ultimately reporting on the results, checking out your profitability across your client base, across individual contracts. And really that PSA gives you that single repository for all your customer notes, contracts, incidents, and emails, and certainly very efficient in helping you schedule your resources through a drag and drop dispatcher workshop, integrating with your Exchange calendar so you can see where your resources are and who's free, and always giving the opportunity to focus on the metrics that matter in your business to help you meet your goals, plan your SLA targets, and track against them and deliver what you promised. And of course, built-in surveys, another great metric to track. Check your survey results out, see how you're doing, and keep that client from festering underneath, because once you win that new business, you want to keep it. And we are ITIL aligned with built-in best practices. And we mentioned Autotask Endpoint Management. It's not integrated with our PSA. It is our PSA, and this is really the crux of the unified platform. Our PSA and Endpoint Management product wrapped together in one, and our endpoint management solution really giving you that opportunity to put all your assets in one spot, track that entire asset, estate of assets out there in not only in your RMM, in endpoint management, but integrated in with Autotask, in the configuration items, tied to contracts, and put those contracts to invoices and get them out on the street as quickly as possible, easily deployed. Endpoint management can be deployed in days. We'll have some customer testimonials in a second. Very scalable, built in the cloud, unlimited endpoint capacity, really giving you that opportunity to drive MRR with Autotask Endpoint Management, deliver your managed services very efficiently. And of course, that does give you the opportunity for what I think everyone out there is looking for, a single pane of glass. The unified platform delivers that, starting with customized dashboards you can build for your role, for your area of business, really anything that you can think of. Customize those dashboards so you can see the entire business if you're the owner, from the financial side, from billings and amounts posted to be billed, most profitable accounts, opportunities in your business, down on through the results of endpoint management, going on out and discovering all the devices and tying them to contract, see how many devices you have under management. This is actually a fantastic little widget on our dashboard. New devices waiting contract review. Never service a device that's not under contract. Bring that right into Autotask. Tie it to a contract, and now you can service it and bill it, and always discover assets, perhaps your clients out there attaching stuff to the network and calling you for support. Maybe it's breaking the network. You're going to know what's going on every minute of every day out there as you combine Autotask PSA and endpoint management into that unified platform. And as Carrie was mentioning, you have a great opportunity to drive leads. And if you're a sales manager or a sales rep, I just wanted to highlight one of the key dashboards that you're going to look to set up. It's all about sales and opportunities and tracking your sales funnel. What stage is that sales lead in? As Carrie said, get more aggressive as that contract is getting closer to be up as far as the incumbent, and make sure that you're going to win that new business and close that month, this month, and then track. If you have 1 rep or 5 reps, easily track how they're doing. Again, single pane of glass from that unified platform really makes it easy for you to do business. More importantly, the unified dashboard provides easy analytics. So the combination of endpoint management and PSA in that unified platform, you're going to be able to see what is going on out in your estate of clients. Look for those upgrade opportunities. If you still got some Windows XP out there, old servers out there, get them into the opportunity queue and calling in not only your existing clients, but certainly as you're prospecting, drop those agents out, do a quick discovery. Once you get that meeting, let them know you can go discover everything that's out there and kind of let them know what they need to do in order to move forward and get that business, keep that business up and running. Again, nice, easy, unified dashboard for easy analytics. And unified makes you more efficient as a business. Run the business from those unified dashboards. Execute your role better. Certainly you can automate and optimize pretty much every business and service delivery process you have out there. It's all about reducing overhead, taking cost out of your business model through automation, and the unified platform delivers. We've seen results over 1 billable hour per day, more efficient on average. That's what we're seeing our partners out there using the unified platform, seeing results every day they're out there. Text do most of what they need to do from the PSA ticket. Endpoint management centralized on that ticket. You can take control of a device. You can see everything going on out in your state from one platform. Self-heal incidents proactively through scripting and respond quicker when you have to. And ultimately, it's about contract clarity and profitability, and never service a device that's not under contract. Again, I think the key here is it doesn't just stop with PSA and endpoint management. We are unified from beginning to endpoint, and in fact help you achieve or see opportunity from beginning to endpoint. With our new file and folder backup solution, Autotask Endpoint Backup, you're going to be able to strip costs and simplify backup and service delivery. One of the key offerings out there is you have to back up your client data. Typically very costly, time-intensive, labor-intensive to back up those endpoints, and most folks are pushing that data to servers, and hopefully your end users that you're supporting are complying. But you know most people are backing up data or saving files on their local drive. Easy endpoint backup through AEB gives you the opportunity to strip costs and overhead for this highly commoditized service and remove the complexity and automate the backup process for local documents and files. And certainly you can back up those servers. I know you're out there imaging for the most part, getting your machines all looking standard, but you still have to back up that data, so when you do have to repair a drive, get those files back on that drive quickly, and certainly your users will never lose a file again, all with Autotask Endpoint Backup. And if there ever was a thin wedge, Autotask Endpoint Backup is the one. I always say it's real hard to go in and displace an incumbent especially if they're doing a good job, especially if they're under contract. But use that thin wedge because maybe those endpoints aren't being backed up. Maybe the incumbent hasn't been delivering on that. Maybe they've had a problem. Let them talk. Find out if Autotask Endpoint Backup is your thin wedge to get into that account that you're trying to win, the managed service contract, that whole piece of the pie. Take a little chunk at a time. And Carrie mentioned Autotask Workplace, File Sync and Share, and Enterprise Grade File Sync and Share. It is built for business. We provide a joint sales approach with you through our robust partner program. Autotask Workplace is an enterprise-grade file sync and share. It's not consumer-grade. There are a lot of your clients out there maybe asking you to support consumer-grade file sync and share. You need to go on in now. As Carrie said, it's not about perhaps your existing clients or even the ones that are out there you're trying to win. Maybe they're using consumer-grade. They don't know the pitfalls. You can educate them and win new business. All of that is in our partner playbook and the partner toolkit. We give you those probing questions. We give you those conversations you can have with your prospects and clients. And again, it is a great thin wedge opportunity. You don't want to go in and win the whole enchilada. You want to win a piece of that business. This is the ultimate managed service delivered from the cloud, both Endpoint Backup and Autotask Workplace, 100% cloud-oriented. Get your foot in the door with these kinds of thin wedges and generate recurrent revenue for you and peace of mind for your clients. And it's not just us talking about it. We've got the sounds of unification out there right now. We've got Richard Thompson talking about how we deployed 4,000 endpoints in a single day, essentially up and running, managing his entire estate in a matter of hours. And here, Mika Thor from Tech Guru talking about how he's going to easily save more than 20 hours a month for his technicians because of the automation. And of course, that enhanced customer experience is going to help them keep their clients longer and grow profitably. So Autotask, the Autotask Unified Platform is simple. We are scalable, built from the ground up in the cloud since 2001. No fat clients, no software to load on any machines, 100% cloud and 4 nines uptime. And certainly you're going to find that hard to beat out there in the market. So it is time to unify with the Autotask Unified Platform. And if you're interested in seeing how we can help you drive more revenue and deliver world-class service, you can call your account manager to listen in on the other solutions that we have in case you're not using them. Or if you want to just get started, you can email sales@autotask.com or visit our brand new website and look around and see if there's something there that we can help you with. And appreciate your time today, and good luck selling out there.
Thank you, Len. Wonderful job as always. Great content and really helped tie the messaging together from Carrie's presentation. Of course, tying in our unified platform at Autotask, along with some nice thin wedge products that we have with Autotask Endpoint Backup and Autotask Workplace. So thank you very much. I'd like to just give a quick reminder now before we move into Q&A. Just one last chance to talk about Autotask Community Live. It's literally 5 days away. Very, very excited. I know a lot of you have hung on there this 5 minutes. We're running over a little bit, but I just wanted to mention one last time, if there's any interest in registering, or if you have questions about content or keynote speakers, anything that we can help you with regarding this event, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can go right to our website, to the landing page for the details and registration information. So if you have any interest, now's the time. Really appreciate you taking a look at it. So with that, I'm checking our Q&A queue here. Not seeing anything active. Len, you? Double checking for me. I don't see anything.
I don't see anything active.
Okay.
I think everybody was quite engaged and listening in on the webinar. Maybe it's lunchtime, yeah. And I think really, just kind of want to highlight that we are here for you. Certainly looking forward to seeing a lot of our customers out at Autotask Community Live, and very interested in helping you execute successful lead gen campaigns for managed services. Carrie's got a great program. Whether it's Autotask Workplace or Autotask Endpoint Backup, you want to run a campaign, a lead gen campaign, and you're a partner of Autotask, We will help you with market development funds. Carrie's got a great program. We'll help you get that done. We want to see you drive more leads and grow your business. We really appreciate Carrie putting the program together. She mentioned workplace, but certainly if you're an Autotask partner out there, you want to work with Carrie and drive some leads. We really advise you to get there. And if you want to get to Autotask Community Live, shoot me an email. I know it's only a few days away. Maybe you're in the state of Florida. You can take a drive down there. Maybe you can get a quick flight wherever you are. Love to have you there. Shoot me an email. Maybe I can help you get there. Maybe I can help you add another attendee at a little bit more costly, less costly price. I just want to kind of recap. Appreciate you guys listening in.
Absolutely, and a special thank you to Carrie Simpson today for not only being a key presenter for us, but also a co-sponsor. So big thank you to you, Carrie, and we look forward to seeing everyone at Autotask Live, Community Live next week. So thanks, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.